Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Mostly quiet on the radar right now, but there's some rain back to our west. It'll sneak in. I'll show you who's most likely to see it through the afternoon.
Storming the courts after a basketball victory could become a thing of the past if some ACC men's basketball coaches get their way.
Also, a hearing today in Raleigh could have major implications for more than 100 death row inmates, while lawyers for Hassan Bacote say his sentence was tainted by racism.
New this noon, a hearing in a murder case could affect more than 100 death row inmates in North Carolina. It's a landmark case being held this week in Johnston County. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. The case focuses on Hassan Bacote, a black man who was sentenced to death in 2009 by 10 white and 2 black jurors for his role in a murder case. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan joins us live outside the Johnston County Courthouse. Chelsea.
Yeah, Renee, we just stepped out. Opening statements have concluded here in this case, and the courtroom was absolutely packed, of course, with supporters for Bacote, but also the victim's family. As you mentioned, this is a case that not only focuses on Bacote, but centered around the Racial Justice Act. And this is a law that was passed in 2009 that allowed death row inmates like Bacote to appeal for a new sentence if they could basically state that racism played a part in their conviction. Now, Hassan Bacote was convicted of murdering Anthony Searles, an 18-year-old high schooler in Johnston County back in 2007. Now, a jury sentenced him to death in 2009. Bacote's attorneys now plan to argue under the law that his jury of 10 white people and 2 black people set him up for a racially biased trial, according to the American Civil Liberties Union, which is also representing him in this legal battle. Now, in this trial, lawyers plan to call several historians, social scientists, and others to establish a history and a pattern of discrimination used in jury selection in his trial here in Johnston County as well. Now, the prosecution, however, contends that Bacote's sentence to death was not obtained as a basis on race, and they are asking the judge to uphold the jury's past verdict. Now, we should mention there is no jury in this case, and it's a trial that is expected to last more than a week, and it's one that you can watch on WRAL.com.
It is one we'll be following all week. Chelsea Donovan, live in Johnston County. A disturbance is moving across our viewing area that could bring rain to some spots this afternoon. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with how long that will stick around.
So we have this little band of showers. It's north of Greensboro, and it is moving due east. Most likely this is going to affect areas from Durham northward through the rest of the afternoon and evening. But you can see the amount of rain here is very light. So what we actually see in the rain gauges north of I-85 is going to be very light, probably a tenth of an inch or less. We take a look at our visible satellite. This shows us where the clouds are right now. And you can see a few clouds back to the west, but we're not looking at a thick shield of cloud cover. So there's just not going to be a lot of moisture with this. We have clear skies. Especially in our southern counties now, as this band of clouds is moving across Raleigh. We will end up with some cloud cover around Raleigh, but we are certainly expecting to see some clearing down to the south. We move ahead with Futurecast, and you can see at 2 o'clock this tiny band of showers, again, north of Durham, up around Roxborough, moving towards South Hill around 4 o'clock or so. It moves on up into Virginia after 5 o'clock, and we'll continue to see some cloud cover near the Virginia line, but we'll see some sunshine to the south. Tuesday, we're going to see dry conditions to begin with, but then we'll see some waves of rain by 10 or 11 o'clock. We'll see those moving through. We'll have a much better chance of rain for tomorrow. Could be up to a half an inch. And that continues on and off, not all day, but on and off through the day into the evening. Our rain chances definitely going up. Today it's just a 20% chance. Tuesday it's 40, but Wednesday night it's a 70% chance. And we'll walk you through that coming up.
Duke men's basketball player Kyle Filipowski may be sidelined from practice with the team this afternoon after he says he was hurt when Wake Forest fans stormed the court over the weekend. Now coaches are calling for the ACC to take action to improve security on the court after big wins. WRAL's Matt Tallhelm is live at Duke after hearing from several head coaches on a conference call this morning about what should be done. Matt?
Yeah, Jeff, first a quick update on Kyle Filipowski here. Coach John Shire says he's not sure if Flip will be able to practice with the team when they head back onto the court here at Duke this afternoon. He says the 7-foot senior center is still sore. He still has a sore knee injury from that injury that happened over the weekend. Take a look at the video of how this all happened. It was right after Wake Forest's win over Duke. Players were still there on the court, and you can see Filipowski in his Duke blue jersey caught in a wave of Wake Forest fans. Several collide with him, pushing him and spinning him around until a student team manager is the one who rushed out and grabbed him and helped to get him off the court. Today, Coach Shire called this a failure and says the ACC needs to do something now this season to protect student athletes.
It comes down to the well-being of our guys, and it would be wrong of me not to speak up. I think it would be wrong of me not to speak up for all the student athletes that can be put in this position. And something needs to change now before something serious happens.
Several other ACC men's basketball coaches also addressed this issue of court storming during a press conference this morning. Some suggested a countdown clock that could be put up to give teams time to get off the court and give the fans the cue that you have so many seconds till you can get out of the stands and rush the court. They're also calling for schools to face fines when this happened. I did reach out to the ACC today to find out if that's something they're considering, if they're looking at any new security measures or these fines. We have not heard back from them yet, but the SEC actually already does fine teams for this. When this happens, the schools face a fine if the fans storm the court.
Well, Matt, we'll see how and how soon this all happens for the ACC. Matt Tallhelm live at Duke for us this noon. Thank you. We have new video this noon from Sky 5 showing the car that crashed last month, killing a UNC student. Here it is in the Chapel Hill Police impound lot. It's still evidence in this growing case that WRAL has covered extensively. New search warrants reveal the underage driver, 20-year-old Flamija Brewer, had a blood alcohol level nearly twice the legal limit. Brewer is facing a number of charges, including felony death by vehicle. The warrant shows officers were seeking crash data from that car. A crash report shows it was traveling as fast as 124 miles per hour. Fellow UNC student Molly Rotunda was killed in that crash. We have reported 10 people are now charged, many related to underage drinking, including 3 UNC football players. The search warrant states officers found a fake ID for Brewer and a half-empty bottle of whiskey that had been thrown from the car upon impact.
3 national PCB experts answered questions from concerned NC State workers this morning. The Zoom meeting addressed the environmental and human health impacts of PCBs in Poe Hall. NC State closed the building last fall after the cancer-causing chemicals were found inside. The experts at the meeting said more testing of the building will help people better understand what was inside of it and suggested taking blood tests to understand PCB exposure in the body.
On Friday, Vice President Kamala Harris will travel to Durham to tout her work on building a strong economy for all Americans. Her visit to the Triangle comes as the GOP political spotlight shifts to the Michigan primary tomorrow. Garrett Hake shares the latest on the backlash former President Donald Trump faces for saying his criminal indictments and his mugshot appeal to black voters.
This morning, former President Trump one step closer to securing the Republican nomination following his double-digit victory in South Carolina.
Wow, that is really something. This was a little sooner than we anticipated.
The former president defeated his one-time UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, in her home state, never mentioning Haley by name in his victory speech. Instead, focusing on his potential rematch with President Biden.
We're going to look at Joe Biden, and we're going to look him right in the eye. He's destroying our country, and we're going to say, Joe, you're fired.
Haley, campaigning in Michigan ahead of tomorrow's primary, is vowing to fight on. Her campaign claiming it raised $1 million since polls closed in South Carolina.
Don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't vote in this primary.
On Saturday, explaining why she's staying in the race for the long haul.
I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
While the Trump campaign attempts to shift its attention to November, Mr. Trump is facing a fierce backlash over his remarks to a group of black conservatives last Friday, saying his 4 criminal cases appeal to black voters.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
later invoking his mugshot taken after his arrest in Georgia.
You know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece.
Haley says the former president's remarks are more evidence he cannot win a general election.
It's disgusting. That's the chaos that comes with Donald Trump. That's the offensiveness that's going to happen every day between now and the general election.
That was Garrett Hake reporting. Trump is coming to Greensboro this weekend, March 2nd. The 45th president will deliver remarks at a Get Out the Vote rally at the Greensboro Coliseum complex. Trump will speak around 2 p.m. In North Carolina, the primary election will be held Tuesday, March 5th, and the general election Tuesday, November 5th.
Right now, the U.S. Supreme Court is taking up 2 cases that could affect 2024 election content on social media. The justices will decide if social media platforms can choose for themselves what content goes on their sites and what can be removed. The tech companies argue that laws out of Texas and Florida violate their First Amendment rights to decide what views are allowed on their platforms. A Democratic veteran political consultant says he is behind fake Biden robocalls that were made to New Hampshire voters last month. Steve Kramer says he commissioned an AI-generated robocall impersonating the president. Kramer is the consultant for President Biden's Democratic primary challenger, Representative Dean Phillips. In the recording, President Biden's voice discouraged participation in New Hampshire's presidential primary. Kramer said he came up with the idea of the hoax to bring awareness to the dangers of AI in politics.
Governor Roy Cooper will honor the UNC women's field hockey team today. He will host a reception for the team this afternoon at the North Carolina Executive Mansion. North Carolina defeated Northwestern for the national championship back in November. That reception gets started at 3 o'clock.
Next at noon, a horrific scene outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. What the U.S. military is saying about one of their own who died after setting himself on fire.
Also, jarring video just released in Florida. What happened to this deputy while investigating a traffic crash?
And a local man is due in court today, accused of taking pictures of a teenager in a dressing room. At 12:30, what we know about the investigation.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
A man who died after setting himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. was an active airman in the U.S. Air Force. The Air Force has identified the man, but will not release his name until 24 hours after the final notification is complete. We're told the airman filmed the incident and yelled "Free Palestine" before collapsing to the ground. The co-chair of a newly formed group to fight anti-Semitism at Harvard University has abruptly resigned. Harvard's interim president says the co-chair, Rafaela Sadoun, decided to refocus her efforts. It's unclear if other factors played a role in her decision to step down. Harvard remains under scrutiny, and some Jewish alumni are auditing the university in order to find sources of anti-Semitism.
Vigils were held across the nation, including in Durham, to honor a non-binary Oklahoma teen who died earlier this month. Next, Benedict, who used the pronouns they, them, was reportedly jumped by 3 students in the girls' bathroom. Benedict died the following day. A national crisis hotline for LGBTQ+ youth says it received an average of 87 calls from Oklahoma per week before Benedict's death. After the circumstances preceding Benedict's death was revealed, the calls tripled to nearly 350 from Oklahoma alone in 1 week. Oklahoma State Senator Tom Woods was asked at a public forum on Friday what he thought about Benedict's death, and his response is drawing harsh criticism.
A Republican state, supermajority in the House and Senate. I represent a constituency that doesn't want that filth in Oklahoma. You know, we are a religious state. We are going to fight to keep that filth out of the state of Oklahoma.
Woods told a local newspaper that he stood by his remarks.
A newly released video from a sheriff's office in Florida is highlighting the importance of the state's move over law. We want to warn you, this video is jarring. The good news is that everyone is okay. Take a look.
Was laying right on the side and sped in front of us. I slammed on the brakes and she was facing us, and just you could see it in her eyes. Whoa, 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 whoa.
The deputy was investigating an earlier crash when that car zipped by, striking his cruiser. The sheriff's office says the deputy was checked out at a hospital and released. The Florida Highway Patrol found the driver at fault and issued several citations. Seattle has expanded a community project to help get people off the streets. The 42 Tiny House Community Project sets aside 10 tiny homes for homeless families and asylum seekers. The village is equipped with shared community spaces and access to case management officers. The Low Income Housing Institute has future plans to develop the space into affordable housing.
Today, a mobile Black History Museum made its way to Garner Magnet High School this morning. There'll be more than 1,000 African-American historical artifacts and memorabilia. Students will learn about the era of slavery up to the present day. 2 retired military veterans will also be there to share.
With the rise of trying to take Black history out of different school systems across the country, I think this type of work is more important than ever to bring it out and show the greatness, the beauty of what Black Americans or African Americans have done for this country, not only in this country, but the world as well, too.
The organizer says the students are in awe of the many things they didn't know about African Americans that created toys to parts of GPS. Very enlightening.
Very much so. Here we are in the last week of February. It's going to feel more like April. And with those warmer temperatures, we're getting some rain with it. Elizabeth Gardner is tracking those showers.
We've been watching this on radar. Early this morning, there was some green that showed up on radar, but we have a very dry air mass in place, so I'm not sure that any of it actually reached the ground. I looked at cameras and didn't see any wet conditions anywhere. The radar continues to pick up some very light showers just north of Greensboro, and those are headed eastward. So if we see any rain, it's likely to be up north of the along the I-85 corridor. You see as we zoom in, just to the west, you can see some of these light showers. But as this moves eastward, we've seen a lot of it just dissipate. So we'll see. The computer models, of course, are showing that we should see some of that rain. And we take a look at the big picture. This is a look at the wide view of satellite and radar, and you can definitely see some of that rain starting to redevelop back to the west. So we'll have our eye on it this afternoon. No matter what, it's going to be very light, even if it does develop. And you can see here on Futurecast just a little bit of patchy light rain that starts to show up around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and just kind of stays, north of Durham and Rocky Mount, and eventually after 5 or 6 o'clock, it drifts back up into Virginia. Now, Tuesday is going to be a different story. By lunchtime, we have rain that'll be falling across the area, and definitely a better chance for rain on Tuesday than what we're seeing today. Today, we just dropped it down to 20%, and we've got it 60% for Tuesday. We may have a break around the time of the evening commute, but it looks like around dinner time and into the evening, we may have a few more waves of rain that move through. Right now, it looks like Wednesday will be dry, but windy and warm. I'll take a look at that in just a minute. Take a live look at Apex right now. There's definitely some cloud cover out there. Our temperature at 58, though, still is feeling on the mild side. With the flow coming out of the south and the winds continuing to be fairly strong during the afternoon, we should add another 10 degrees to that by the time we get to 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, it is 65 in Fayetteville, 62 in Clinton, 65 in Southern Pines, and this is where our air is coming from. So this tells us what's headed our way. So mid-60s are just to our south. So again, we should see those temperatures warming up. It is 64 in South Hill right now, 61 in Roxborough. So starting to see conditions warming up for sure. 68 in Raleigh, 67 Durham, and 69 in Fayetteville for the high temperatures this afternoon. And depending on where you are, the farther south you are, the more sunshine you'll end up seeing this afternoon. 58 is our normal high. Tomorrow will be about 10 degrees above that, just like we are today. And then 77 for Wednesday. Behind Wednesday night's front, it'll be cooler back into the mid-50s. Take a look at this. On Wednesday, 77, the previous record is 81, and in Fayetteville, 78, and the record's 83. So we're probably not going to hit records, but, we're within a handful of degrees. Another thing that we'll end up seeing Wednesday is windy conditions. We'll see gusts at least up to 35, maybe to 40 miles per hour, and steady winds will be at about 20 to 25. And that will all be out of the south, and that's what's going to cause our temperatures to warm up so much to around 77. Now, Wednesday night, a front comes through, and it will cool our temperatures down significantly, more than 20 degrees for Thursday. Friday night into early Saturday, we have the potential for a few light showers. We'll check that out on Futurecast coming up in just a bit.
Thanks, Elizabeth. New AI technology is all the buzz at the annual Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. We'll take a look at the new smartphone that lets you control your car with your eyes.
Krispy Kreme lovers, get ready to leap for joy. The special offer the company is giving customers to celebrate Leap Day. The Federal Trade Commission claims H&R Block falsely advertised its tax prep products as free and pressured users to pay for expensive services. According to the complaint, the tax agency offered more expensive online products even if customers did not need extra forms. The agency also claims H&R Block made customers go through a long process to downgrade their service, then allegedly deleted the previously entered data to make downgrading less attractive.
If you have a legal question, you can get it answered for free this week. 5 on Your Side is partnering with the North Carolina Bar Foundation for Lawyers on Call. Call in Friday to talk to a licensed lawyer absolutely free. This public service is completely anonymous, designed to connect you with legal information. You could control your car with a simple eye movement using your cell phone. A Chinese technology company called Honor demonstrated how artificial intelligence interacts with human eye tracking technology. The company globally launched its own Magic 6 Pro smartphone that has this feature. A smartphone and tech pairing were used to start, drive, reverse, and stop a car. An engineer says the use goes way beyond just automotive.
The real use for this technology is really to enable another way for users to interact with the phone. So if you didn't want to touch the screen or for any reason, let's say you've got dirty hands or whatever, then by looking at the screen, you can then interact with the phone in a new way.
Tech and telecom companies are hoping this new AI buzz will help generate business interest at the annual Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Spain, which opens Monday.
North Carolina-based Krispy Kreme is celebrating the extra day we get on the calendar this year. Customers can get a dozen original glazed donuts for $2.29 this Thursday, February 29th, with the purchase of any regularly priced dozen. If you happen to be a leap year baby, you can get a free dozen original glazed, no purchase necessary. You just have to show proof that you were born on February 29th.
I want to give you this update this noon. A woman missing from Raleigh was found safe, according to her family. This weekend, family members told WRAL Jacqueline Devine had not been seen for more than a week. About an hour ago, her mother let us know her daughter has been found and she is safe. A former military officer is now charged with felony peeping. After the break, how a teenager played a role in his arrest.
And it's like a broken record. For the 4th time since September, the government is once again at risk for a partial shutdown. Why there may not be a way to avoid it this time. First, here's a look at your winning North Carolina Education Lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
The man accused of taking pictures of a teenage girl in the dressing room of a Garner clothing store is due in court today. The incident happened over the weekend at the Little Details Boutique in Garner. WRAL's Ken Smith joins us now with what we know about this investigation. Ken.
You know, Renee, we're continuing to learn more about what happened and how it happened. First off, the suspect now charged in this incident. This is 50-year-old Sean Jones of Apex. He's charged with felony secret peeping. You're about to see his picture in a little bit. Police also seized his cell phone. Jones is accused of putting his cell phone over the top of a changing room stall and taking pictures of a 16-year-old girl at Little Details Women's Boutique in Garner. Police say the girl looked up and caught Jones taking her picture, told her mom, who confronted Jones as he came out of a fitting room next to the one in which the team was changing. Well, just before we came on the air, I spoke with the owner of Little Details by phone. She tells me she applauds the team for coming forward and is relieved police caught Jones. He is due in a Wake County courtroom in less than an hour. We will be there. Look for new reporting on this story in our newscast starting at 4 and WRAL.com as well, and the WRAL News app.
So disturbing for that teenager. Ken Smith, thank you. The man and woman charged in connection with the murder of a former Durham deputy chief's son could soon go to trial. Anthony A.J. March Jr. was shot and killed in 2021. He was the son of retired Deputy Chief Anthony Marsh Sr. Tony Allen Smith Jr. is charged with first-degree murder, and Natisha Page is charged with accessory after the fact. The prosecution says it's still waiting on evidence from law enforcement that will have to go to the defense as well. As of now, a joint trial for Smith and Page is set for May 20th.
Parents likely know each North Carolina school gets a letter grade that is intended to reflect how well that school is doing. Today, state leaders are proposing new ways to grade schools with more factors considered. WRAL's Laura Levine explains right now state rankings only account for test scores.
State Superintendent Catherine Truitt will meet here with lawmakers to share this proposal and redesign plan that she's been working on for about 2 years with an advisory group. So let's say you are a parent moving into a different neighborhood and you want to know more about the school your kids would attend. Right now, the state's performance grading process doesn't share graduation rates, attendance records, how satisfied the teachers are, or what classes they offer. Truitt is looking at a process to discover how the current school performance formula could be changed to include a more comprehensive list of indicators that can help paint a more complete picture of school quality. WRAL's education insider Emily Walkenhurst tells us currently 80% of the school performance grade is based off of standardized test scores, and then 20% is based on growth.
Schools do a lot more, related to discipline, attendance, offering AP courses, career preparation. There's a lot of other things that schools are measured on already at the state or federal level, and she just wants to include some more of those things in that grade redesign.
Now, lawmakers are not expected to take action today. However, they are expected to use this information to decide how to move forward. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
A handful of schools in Wake County will soon have a panic alarm system in place to use during an emergency situation. It's an app called WRAL. It allows school staff to use their phone to communicate instantly if there's a threat, and it can trigger a school lockdown within seconds. Tomorrow, the Wake County Safety and Security Committee will discuss piloting this app at 28 schools in the spring. The plan is to roll it out to all 200 Wake County schools in the fall. WRAL told you about WRAL in 2022. That's when lawmakers approved funding to use the app at all middle and high schools. Some school systems across the state are already using WRAL.
This week, the Wake County Public School System will start its new clear bag policy. Beginning Friday, spectators at all school-sponsored events can only bring in one clear bag, no larger than 12 by 15 by 3 inches. The purpose of the bag rule is to deter people from bringing in things like knives or other weapons into extracurricular events. Some schools have already started doing this, including Millbrook High School. That's where back in February 2023, a juvenile brought a loaded gun to a basketball game.
Lawmakers in Washington are 5 days away from a partial government shutdown. If Congress does not reach a funding deal, part of the government will shut down Saturday morning and the rest will shut down the following weekend. Rebecca Castor has the latest on the intense discussions underway.
With senators back in Washington Monday and the House on vacation until Wednesday, the pressure is on for lawmakers to reach a deal to prevent a government shutdown.
Why is Congress not doing their job and passing a budget?
It's the fourth time since September that funding the government has come down to the wire. If lawmakers don't act soon, departments including Veteran Affairs, Agriculture, Housing and Urban Development, Transportation and Energy, and Military Construction will shut down on Saturday.
These are programs that are critical, that are important to the American people, and it needs to get done.
Until then, Republicans and Democrats are playing the blame game.
We're doing our job. We're following the law and trying to do our part. But it's up to Schumer, who's killed every endeavor we've tried to do to be responsible about spending this year.
Speaker Johnson has to decide what he wants his legacy to be. Does he want to actually serve as the Speaker of the House at a moment of crisis and meet the moral moment that we are in?
House Speaker Mike Johnson says the holdup on funding comes from, quote, new Democrat demands, while some Republicans insist they won't pass anything that does not include securing the border.
Anything I vote for has to secure our border, and the president should agree to that.
That was Rebecca Castor reporting. Tomorrow, President Biden will meet with congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle to discuss preventing a shutdown and also passing critical military aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan.
Still to come this noon, why Pope Francis canceled all his meetings and appearances this morning.
Plus, the number of antidepressant prescriptions has soared post-pandemic. The group researchers found was driving much of the increase. And if you see news happening or you'd like to share a story idea with us, click Report It in the WRAL News app. You're looking live at North Hills in Raleigh. We are getting close to 70 degrees today for our high. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Florida says parents of unvaccinated students have the option of whether to send their children to school despite a measles outbreak. The state surgeon general says Florida will not mandate the CDC guideline that unvaccinated students must stay home for 3 weeks after a measles outbreak. There are at least 8 cases of measles in Broward County, including 6 at one elementary school. According to the CDC, 9% of kindergartners in Florida have not been vaccinated.
Since the COVID pandemic, the number of people ages 12 to 25 who needed prescriptions for depression or anxiety has skyrocketed. A new report finds young women account for most of those prescriptions. Experts say while the rise in numbers is alarming, antidepressants can be life-saving. Consult your doctor if you notice behavior and mood changes.
Pope Francis canceled his public meetings today due to continued light flu symptoms. The 87-year-old skipped meetings on Saturday, but did appear in public yesterday. The Pope has suffered repeated health problems in recent months. In December, he was forced to cancel a planned trip to a climate meeting due to the effects of influenza and lung inflammation. As a young man in his native Argentina, Francis had part of a lung removed.
Passengers on Norwegian cruise ship being quarantined off the coast of East Africa because of an outbreak of illness. The cruise line says a small number of people on its Norwegian Dawn ship had mild symptoms of the illness that many suspect to be cholera. They're now stuck at the port of the island nation of Mauritius. Now, until at least tomorrow, when they can finish their 12-day cruise, Norwegian says it is assisting those guests with changes to their travel arrangements. Devastating wildfires can strike any place at any time. And coming up, what experts say is fueling the flames, and could North Carolina be next?
This year, you'll have a little more time to accomplish your goals. That's because 2024 comes with a bonus day, the importance of leap year, after the break. Could deadly wildfires like the recent ones in Maui and California happen here in North Carolina? New research suggests climate change is fueling the flames and increasing risk across our region.
We experience droughts all the time, but you pair it with high temperatures, and that allows fuels to dry out really quickly. And so you quickly end up with a situation of conditions just perfect for a large, fast-moving fire.
Tonight at 6, WRAL climate change reporter Liz McLaughlin takes an in-depth look at how fire threats are changing in North Carolina and how to find out if your home is at risk.
It usually happens every 4 years, but do you know why? Ted Lindner unravels the importance of leap years and what life on Earth would be like if we didn't have them.
It's still the shortest month, but this year, February is an extra day longer. All thanks to 2024 being a leap year. And while it may not seem like a big deal, there's a whole lot of science and math behind why we alter our calendars.
The reason we have leap years is because the length of the year and the length of the day are not really related to each other.
A year is measured by the amount of time it takes the Earth to make one full trip around the sun. According to NASA, that takes about 365 days, 6 hours, and 9 minutes.
In order to keep the calendar synced up with things like the seasons, particularly when the beginning of spring is and the beginning of fall, the equinoxes, we have to make a correction to the calendar.
And if we didn't have leap years, life as we know it would look a lot different.
What would happen is eventually the calendar would get out of sync with the seasons. So we would like to have the start of spring be in March. And if we didn't have the leap years, eventually the spring would start to drift and we'd start having the first day of spring be in January or October. The basic idea is that usually every 4 years, you add an extra day to the calendar.
But in the distant future,
the length of the day is actually growing longer due to tidal effects from the moon. So eventually, we won't need leap years anymore when the number of days in years is exactly 365. That's going to happen in about something like 2 to 3 million years from now.
The next leap year won't be until 2028.
That was Ted Lindner reporting. Yes, every 4 years for the most part.
And they always coincide with presidential elections, so that's one way to remember that. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Not a whole lot of showers showing up on the dual Doppler radar right now.
You know, we had more showing up on the radar earlier, and we were still struggling to actually see anything on the cameras. We have a fairly dry air mass in place right now, so sometimes what happens is when the rain forms in the clouds above us and it falls into that dry air, it evaporates before it reaches the ground. So that's probably what's happening. And you can see, I mean, our rain up here to the north is pretty minuscule. The models earlier this morning were advertising a bit more, and it would be possible that we would see a few showers in our northern tier counties as we get through the afternoon. Again, you can see a little bit of that around Reedsville, a little bit in Roxborough, but there's really not much coming down. From Raleigh southward, we're going to see increasing sunshine through the afternoon and warmth too. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit, and that wind is out of the south, so that's really going to warm things up. It's a pretty view here in Fayetteville as we look over downtown. In Fayetteville, our wind is out of the south, steady at 15. We're steady at 10 in Clinton, but we're gusting to 16. We're gusting to 24 in Southern Pines. And when we looked earlier in the newscast, the temperatures were already in the mid 60s here. So those winds are really kicking up and helping to warm up the temperatures, and that will translate northward as we get through the afternoon. Here's a look at the big picture. Again, not looking at a whole lot of rain, but what is happening up near the Virginia line. And anybody from Raleigh southward not likely to see any more rain today. Again, there's not a lot up there. We get into the day Tuesday, and it looks like we'll have a better chance at that point. We'll see the rain arriving right around lunchtime or so. We may get a break around the evening commute, but we'll have more waves that roll through during the evening up until at least midnight. Wednesday is going to bring us a front. We'll see fairly clear conditions to start the day. We'll see rain late in the day. During the day Wednesday, we'll see winds gusting at 30 to 40 miles per hour. That's pretty strong outside of thunderstorms, which we are not expecting to see any of those. We'll have a nice dry day Wednesday. And then behind the front on Thursday, temperatures could be up to 25 degrees cooler. So it's going to be a big drop that we end up seeing. This is Wednesday at 5 a.m. and we may still see a little bit of light rain left over from Tuesday night's system. But for the most part, the bulk of the day should be dry. The cold front arrives right around the time of the evening commute, and we'll see rain overnight. Some of that could be heavy at times. It moves on out of here by Thursday morning. High pressure builds in and gives us a dry day on Thursday and most of Friday. But we may end up seeing an increase in the chance of rain Friday night and early Saturday. And the big question is, will it move on out, and will we see a dry day on Saturday, or is that rain going to linger? The models have been kind of flip-flopping back and forth on that. Right now, it looks like we should clear out during the afternoon on Saturday, and currently it looks dry on Sunday. But keep checking back if you have outdoor plans. The rest of the day today and tonight, just a 20% chance. It's a 40% chance for tomorrow and a 70% chance on Wednesday night into early Thursday. With all those chances for rain, we're still not looking at very much rain total. Probably going to be somewhere around a quarter to a half an inch, maybe some spots that are a little higher than that as we get into Wednesday night and Friday night as well. So checking the temperatures, upper 60s today and tomorrow, 77 Wednesday, much cooler Thursday and Friday. Be ready for that, but it won't last long. Temperatures are in the 60s over the weekend.
Elizabeth, thanks. Students in our area are getting a closer look at robotics as a potential career path. How a team called the Cyber Bears is opening their eyes to the possibilities. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today. Happening now, a hearing in a murder case could affect more than 100 death row inmates in North Carolina. It's a landmark case being held this week in Johnston County. The case focuses on Hassan Bakote, a black man who was sentenced to death in 2009 by 10 white and 2 black jurors for his role in a murder case. WRL's Chelsea Donovan will have coverage from court on our news starting at 4.
ACC men's basketball coaches say something should be done to protect players from fans who storm the court after games. Duke sophomore standout Kyle Filipowski says he injured his knee when Wake Forest fans stormed the court Saturday in Winston-Salem. Several fans made contact with Filipowski. His status remains uncertain for practice today.
3 national PCB experts answered questions from concerned NC State workers this morning. The Zoom meeting addressed the environmental and human health impacts of PCBs in Poe Hall. NC State closed the building last fall after the cancer-causing chemicals were found inside.
A Black History Month celebration in Raleigh showed off the diversity in robotics. Cyber Bears is a robotics team that was created by the TMT Youth Community Foundation with the primary goal of exposing and training youth of color in vulnerable communities to STEAM careers.
Our goal is to be able to take this across the state so that we can take black and brown children, robots, and teach them about the Silicon Valley, where they are, and be able to have the skills that will be able to employ them here in this area.
Kids aged 6 to 14 were invited to come out to Sunday's robot building workshop. Along with learning how to build a robotic arm in just 45 minutes, kids got to meet the team and see the debut of their competition robot, Goldilocks.
The mother of a new Raleigh police officer is feeling grateful today after the community stepped up so she could have memories of her son's academy graduation. Diana Marcotte lives in Maine. She planned to come down to Raleigh to see her son Eric graduate from the police academy, but couldn't make it because of health issues. She wanted to send her son some flowers to let him know she was thinking of him on his big day and called several shops trying to place an order. Finally, she got in touch with the English Garden florist of Raleigh. They didn't stop with flowers, though.
We were just going to, drop it off somebody there that would give it to him on the way out. But they went even further than that. They took a video and sent pictures and sent it to me. I mean, I was just like, my God, this is like way, way, way more than I ever expected.
So thoughtful. Marcotte says her son told her he was the only one to receive flowers at the graduation. She says she's very grateful to the English Garden for making the day memorable for not only her son, but her as well.
That's how we do Southern hospitality, right? Our pet of the day is a beautiful adult kitty who wants a quiet home that has a lot of love to give. This is Sugar Cookie, a short-haired Torby. She loves spending time with her humans. Her favorite place is her fluffy bed, which will go home with her. Safe Haven for Cats is open for adoptions every day except Monday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can see profiles for Sugar Cookie along with the profiles of other cats ready for adoption by going to safehavenforcats.org.
5 on Your Side is always tracking recalls to keep your family safe. Ahead on our news at 4, our team is taking you through some of the most impactful recalls of the last month that you should be on the lookout for.
Be on the lookout for a couple of showers to our north of Durham and across the top part of our state this afternoon. Other than that, warm up on the way. Good.
Oh, yeah, you will feel it once you step outside for sure. 60s are going to feel nice. NBC News Daily is next on WRAL, your next local news update in 30 minutes.
Get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.